What did you say? I was like a stray dog that you took in off the streets?
No, you are like a little bumblebee. You were our little bumblebee when you arrived.
Yeah, this is starting off on a really positive note. I'm sitting here with my good friend Árpád. I'm gonna let him introduce himself for a second, but appreciate you taking the time to chat with me about whatever topic we're about to cover.
Thanks, Trevor. And yeah, just background note. Trevor tried to pronounce my family name and he failed, and he decided this is the solution how to get over this obstacle. Okay, so my name is Árpád Rózsás from Hungary, so that's probably the reason it's difficult to pronounce my name. Yeah, we are sitting in The Hague where we met, actually in the same house where we first met. Yeah, what can I say? I moved to the Netherlands three years ago. I'm an engineer by training, and recently I started and quit a company with a friend which was meant to provide aid in the humanitarian sector, technological aid or support.
Yeah, that's, how we met was kind of an interesting story. Well, actually, you know what? Let's. So Árpád, or Dr. Rózsás, I think I pronounced that correctly. I didn't pronounce it correctly at all. Okay, good. Árpád and I met around a year ago. I was visiting The Hague in my travels around the globe, and just so happened to meet his roommate at a co-working space for humanitarian projects and non-government organizations, and they took me in like a what did you say? I was like a stray dog that you took in off the streets?
No, you are like a little bumblebee. You were our little bumblebee when you arrived, because of your history with Kara, who was another American who was living with us. We shouldn't tell this to our landlord. Who was living with us, and then they matched. I don't even know, is there a match in Bumble, and yeah, just coincidentally, you met Eric, and you happened to show up in our house.
Yep, and then you guys were nice enough to take me in and let me crash with you guys for about a month or so, and it was I would say it was a eye-opening experience for me for sure. Just the entire cast of characters that came through the house while I was here was crazy. I mean, there's like, you guys are all engineers, I believe, and yeah, just a lot of fun conversations and interesting stories, which we'll get into in another episode. The purpose of this episode, though, is to talk about the last day I was at the house. I received a gift from you and Julia, and also was Nils part of it as well? No, Nils was part of it as well. And we, I made a comment. I was like, damn, that was actually, you guys gave me, what was the book? Something about mathematics?
No, I think it was like recent advances in computational mechanics.
Yeah, so something that's clearly in my wheelhouse and I'm able to totally comprehend. Then you gave me a second book, Catch-22, and it felt like one of like the nicest things that somebody had done. It was just, it was just a book, but it felt like something much more. And then when I asked you about it, you explained this concept. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but the concept of a Kofola Gift? Yes. Kofola Gift. And so the purpose of this episode is for Árpád to walk us through what a Kofola Gift is, and maybe some advice or some way that you could also give someone a Kofola gift, or what it could mean for your life in general. So, do you want to walk us through what that is?
Yes. So, first of all, this concept is, I think it might be known, but the term itself is basically, I decided to use this term. So, Kofola, the word is used in Slovakia and Czech Republic to basically refer to a drink which is comparable to Coca-Cola, Pepsi, but in my opinion, it's way shittier. Not that I like Coca-Cola or Pepsi, but it's like I particularly dislike Kofola, and I think it's like the Soviet version of the Coca-Cola, and it's still popular So Czech people actually are really proud of it. So because I didn't like it when I was living there in the Czech Republic, and I thought that let's try to find a new usage for this word. And I think back then I was reading a book from Eric Fromm. I cannot recall the name of the book. And then he was describing this interesting concept, which I immediately felt. Basically, I could feel the meaning of it without reading the full explanation, which is basically a special way of giving a gift or giving a favor to someone, which the core concept is that you don't expect, as the giver, you don't expect any gratitude. And even more, you are offended when someone is grateful. For example, verbally saying thank you. And then the reason is that basically when someone is telling you thank you for the gift, that person is implying that you are expecting this, and you are expecting as the giver some sort of a hierarchy, that you expect that your gift to be thanked, and you also want the other person to show that he or you are superior to that person. And then basically sorry, I'm destroying the equipment. So Fromm's example is related to a tribe, and I think it's something like a small community of hunter-gatherers, and one of the hunters goes out and catches a game, and then a big animal, and brings it back and decides to share it with the community. And it's totally natural. And he explains that it's totally natural in those communities, and no one is expecting actually a thank you. And he's even explaining that in some languages there is not even a word for thank you. So, and it was just, I really liked the concept when I was reading about it, and I was thinking, okay, can we even express such a gift-giving process, or such a relation between a giver and receiver? Do we have a word for it? Or, because at least my experience is that we always say thank you, and we always show our gratitude even for very small things. And I was thinking, okay, but actually I can pretty much relate to this whole feeling that it can create some sort of a hierarchy, and then basically almost implicitly imposing some superiority from the giver's side. And I wanted to avoid this, so then I started to mention to my friends, okay, if I, in some occasions when I gave them a favor or a little gift, I said, please don't say thank you, because this is a special type of gift. And because I didn't have a word for it, I started to use the term Kofola. And then, so back then I was living in the Czech Republic, I started to mention this to my friends, for example, in Hungary. And it turned out to be that currently a friend, actually my supervisor, who was a supervisor in the Czech Republic, he confirmed back that he is using it actually in his everyday life. I have friends living in the US, Hungarian friends, they also mentioned that they use it, so now it's spreading all around the world. And now actually this opportunity is also, basically this is also an opportunity to spread this idea.
I feel like I feel like I know, is it The Art of Loving from Fromm? I feel like it might have been that, because The Art of Loving talks about the ability to give love to someone, like romantic love, interpersonal love, or doing things without the expectation of any type of return. I don't remember the concept of like the tribal part of it, so maybe it's something different, but it sounds very much the same. And so it sounds like a lot of people have started using this. I mean, a lot is relative. 5 people have started using this. It might be 6 after they listen to this episode. So when I'm thinking about it, because it really changed my perception on gift giving, or just like giving things in general. And also there's another situation where I feel like it's popped up, which I want to bring up in a minute. And that's, you give a gift to someone, or you do something for them with really no expectation of anything in return, of a favor or a connection to somebody else or whatever it is. And it kind of, I don't know, it almost creates a mutual like it's like a mutual respect in the relationship, because you're not saying, well, because I did this for you, I don't want you, I expect something in return, and if I don't get something in return, you're screwing me over. And it's like no expectation. You go into it without expecting anything back. So it's like if you get something later on down the road, it's kind of a nice surprise almost. So let's say someone's listening to this right now. How would you, and this is a completely foreign concept to them. There's a nice bird outside. How would you recommend that they approach giving their first Kofola gift?
That's a difficult one. I think the most important thing is that whether you feel that this is a concept or an act which you can relate to. I think every normal human being can relate to it, unless you are totally screwed up by your society, which might be the case if you were raised in the United States. Sorry. But so my experience was that I always had to, after I said, no, this is a different type of gift. Actually, please don't offend me with saying thank you. I always had to proceed and explain it. So, my strategy was just when I truly felt that this is a gift which is coming from really just from your heart, and you don't really want to receive any compensation, you just give it, you tell it this is it, and then explain the concept. I think there is no other way. Just you have to explain the concept to the other person, because I'm not aware of any OECD countries where this concept was commonplace.
Do you have any examples of, I know you said that some former coworkers or colleagues have started doing this approach to gift giving, or favor giving, I guess, for lack of a better term. Any other examples you can think of where maybe somebody could get started or get their feet wet? I don't know why that's what I'm coming up with, but any other examples?
So my personal example, I remember one at the university. I reviewed the PhD thesis of a friend of mine, and actually that's a lot of work, a couple of hundreds of pages, written in broken English, and then I just mentioned to him, you know what, I think you would do it for me, and I think that it's just totally normal, and we should expect actually from each other to do such a thing if I have the time and the skills. So it was one case. I think it can be anything when you feel a little bit that, hey, I have the means and the time to do it. I must say I've never done it with a stranger, because I always felt that there is a need to explain the concept, and in that case there wouldn't be a possibility. I'm thinking about it. I did it with a stranger because I didn't expect anything, but at least I did not introduce the concept. I think I don't know. I think it can be done anytime, but just do it when you feel it that it's the right thing to do.
For people who are listening that hear this and they're like, well, that sounds nice, and maybe I'll think about doing it. Maybe I will do something heartfelt for someone, or not heartfelt. But they're thinking about doing it. They're really on the fence because they're like, well, I've never done anything for someone without expecting something in return. What advice would you have for them?
I think there's an interesting idea here, because I truly believe that actually a lot of people do this. So there are really, really, really kind-hearted people who give a lot without expecting anything. Actually, there are a lot of people who are donating without even showing or leaving their names. I think probably what is important for me in this whole concept, that you give a name to it and a label, because actually language is affecting your mind. There's actually some really nice, interesting studies about this. For example, in Russian, they have 2 different words for blue, like 2 shades of blue, which in most other languages you don't have. So in English, you also don't differentiate between these 2 blues. And then they did a test. They showed different blue colors to people, and they had to somehow indicate when they saw a change. And then they were more basically perceptive of changes of shades in blue, because their language contained this concept, and their that was influencing their brain, the development of the brain. So I think that maybe that could be a good motivation of try to practice this, because then you embed this concept into your mind, and you start to be aware of it, and maybe due to this you will practice it more. But I truly believe that people already do this, but maybe this could like accelerate this process.
Kind of by putting a name onto it, so when people ask, like, oh, that was, they say like, thank you, that was really nice. They're like, oh, well, no need. Then they can kind of, it gives them an opportunity to almost explain what they're doing. And maybe that kind of plants a seed in someone else's head.
Final note, don't start to use it like too often, because Kofola, I think, is a trademark. So who knows? Like Budweiser thing will happen. This, the Budweiser story, right?
Yeah, you've been hanging out with too many Americans lately, I think, when you're talking about trademarking everything that you say. Well, I appreciate taking the time to discuss Kofola. We'll be talking about some more other topics in the future upcoming episodes, so look forward to you coming back. Any final words you'd like to leave the audience with on gift giving, Kofola, or anything in general?
Yeah, so a question to you, Trevor. So after experiencing your first Kofola event as a receiver, have you practiced it as a giver?
Yeah, I think I have. So in the US we do Christmas, and there's gift giving and all that, and a lot of the gifts they don't have Christmas in Hungary. So the way that I thought about the gifts I was giving were a bit different, and the way that I've done some things since then, like whether that's paying for meals, when I'm out with fellow like backpackers, a lot of them aren't working, so they don't have the money to have like a nice meal out, or me covering a meal for them, it's really helpful. It makes me very uncomfortable when people say thank you in those situations where they're like, oh man, thanks so much. I'm like, no, stop. Like, please don't. Like, just go do something nice for someone else when you have a chance. And I think it also comes down to, I think it's not just the Kofola gift, but spending time in like the poorest countries and seeing how maybe they're doing the Kofola without even a name for it or even thinking about it. It's just kind of how they are. Like I think about when I was in Thailand, and like they would just come up and give me free food, or like we stopped to get gas on the motorbike, and they gave us like a bunch of bananas, and then I tried to put them in my bag, and they're like, no, eat them. And I'm like, you look skinny. Yeah, and I tried to give them money, and they wouldn't take it, and they almost looked offended when I gave them money. So I think that it affected my gift giving, but it also made me more aware of how other people are doing it, and how on the flip side, you kind of notice when some people, they give you something and you're like, you don't necessarily reciprocate right away, and then their reaction is kind of telling of why or what their intention was. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I really liked your story. And actually, I think it's like not only that you were giving, but also it's how you receive it, as you just mentioned, and you can sense how people give you something. And definitely it is almost always, I think, sensible if someone is giving you something with the intention of, hey, at least like praise how like superior I am to you. Yeah, I have another question to you. So then, for example, when you practice this, and you said that this concept was influencing you when you were making a decision about Christmas gifts. Side note, I have no idea what is Christmas. Like in the satellite countries, there was no Christmas, only the celebration of Stalin. So what was the reaction of the receivers? So, for example, your relatives, family members. Did you explain to them the concept, or did they look at you strangely when you gave them? I don't know what you gave them.
I tried to explain the concept, but I tried to do it and I didn't explain the concept to them unless they asked. It wasn't like, oh, here you go, this is a Kofola gift. Like, I'm giving this to you and you can't say thank you. It was more like, it was the way I thought about, I think it was more of like my approach to what I chose to give them changed, because it was less about like, oh man, I hope they I hope they really like this. I hope they're really excited. It was less tied to like the reaction they would have and more to just like the intention behind it. So it also was affected by some other things where like some of the things were like a gift card with a letter like this. I bought somebody coffee, but I was like, this coffee is for drinking with me and talking. That was the gift that I gave, but I wanted something in return. Like I wanted to spend time with them, but it was, it was, so maybe that's not the best example of a Kofola gift because I wanted to spend time with them in return, but it was more of like, what do they care about? What do they care about? Do they care about this, they care about this, thing, this like coffee maker, whatever it is, like this new, whatever it is, this new widget, or is it more important that we like spend time together? And that's kind of like it's like the gifts became more intentional versus just like oh, well, they're going to buy me something, so I need to buy them something in return. They could use some new socks, so I'm going to get them some socks. And yeah, so I think there are some people that did ask a bit, like, like this isn't a strange gift. Like, like why would you give me this thing with a letter and saying that we're going to do this? But, and so I tried to explain to them maybe more the intentionality instead of the Kofola. But I feel like they're kind of tied together, right? In a way.
What do you mean, the term?
No, I mean, like when you do something for someone, it's more like, and you would call it a Kofola gift. It's more intentional than just like rolling up to a place.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you give someone something, you don't expect a return. So yeah, otherwise you could do it in a random way, but yeah, usually it is like targeting that specific person, knowing that person, and yeah, imagining what that person might like. Yeah. But it's not related to the term Kofola, because that's a shitty drink. A Kofola gift is not always that you have to come up with the gift and the idea what to do for that person. Very often people ask for help. So then you just, if you truly feel that you are ready to help, you just reach out to that person, and you don't ask for a thank you for that favor.
I think that's the most important part. Doing something without seeking anything in return. So just think about that the next time that you have the opportunity to give, and try to let go of whatever expectation you might have in return. So that's the challenge I would give all of you listeners today, and let me know how it goes.
Maybe it can be cut. It's just an interesting idea, and I'm not saying it for the podcast. Just between the two of us, it's just for me that one interesting component in this whole idea was that I really felt when I was reading about this. Hey, actually, there is this thing which is inside me, so it's probably genetically coded as a lot of our behaviors, tendencies, relations towards others, empathy, all these things. So I was just feeling, okay, then it's interesting because we don't have in our language this concept. It's not part of our society, but I just suddenly felt, but it's actually there. I now can relate to this. And this little discovery was just a super exciting thing. So when that was an additional motivation why I also gave an explanation about what is this Kofola gift to friends when I was practicing it, is that I wanted to have a confirmation. Is it only me, or is this concept also inducing in your mind something interesting, that it's actually uncovering something which was like suppressed by society and our culture with all the iPads and iPhones and iShits? What do you think about this, Trevor?
I think that you're right, that it's, when you brought it up, it was it definitely felt like it's something that it is there. It's just more that, I mean, I was sharing it with someone at one point, because I don't remember what happened. If I gave them something, I'm not gonna name names because their reaction was not extremely positive. But I gave them something, and then they were like, "Oh, thanks. What do you want me to do in return?" And And I was like, oh, nothing. It's fine. Like, and then they're like, what? Why? I'll give you some money or something. Like, no. I'm like, it's kind of defeats the purpose. And I explained, and they're like, well, I don't want to get screwed over, so I'm never going to do that. And I was like, what? So I think in some of us, maybe it's that way, but there's also this feeling that, we have to protect ourselves and protect our assets. And if we don't actively do that, then somebody's going to come take it. Somebody's going to take advantage of us. But it's really hard to take it. This is the part I think that people don't understand, is it's really hard to be taken advantage of. I mean, unless you're like giving someone your bank account and saying like, go spend all my money, or like move into my house, it's really hard to be taken advantage of when you have no expectations of anything in return.
Yes, but still someone could take advantage of you because it still costs you some money. But I think, although I mentioned earlier that you can practice this Kofola gift giving with strangers, but for me it's usually an intimate act. So I do this with someone who I feel close with. So in that case, actually the likelihood that someone will take advantage of you is lower. And at a certain point you will just sense it. It cannot go on and on. So then at a certain point you just withdraw your Kofola gift. But also because you were also proposing a challenge, because that's, as I mentioned, for me that was a really, really interesting thing, that to think about it, whether this whole concept and way of giving, basically way of sharing without expecting anything in return, is part of our, let's call it human nature, but to be more specific, maybe genetically coded. I would give as a challenge, and I would be very interested actually to hear from anyone the reactions or experiences, that when you explain this to someone, whether that someone is feeling that this concept is relatable, or whether you, when you are listening to this, whether you feel that, okay, this is something which I think is something within us, and it's not something artificial and just humbug what we are talking about. But if you feel that it's artificial and humbug, just tell us, because then we will stop using it.
I won't. I'm still going to do it. But I'm not a very good listener, so I've been told. Yeah, it's I think that all this stuff is really just to like summarize it and wrap it up a bit, is just that, we all have these opportunities that come up every day where someone's like, oh man, would you mind like glancing at my thesis? I think the reason you probably gave me that book is because I've been talking with you about different things to read, and I'm trying to become a more educated, well-rounded person. And so it's these opportunities, I believe, are presented to us all the time. It's more a matter of, are we thinking about how we can help these people that we care about? Like, you're not going to, every person that comes up to you and asks you for something, maybe you're not going to do it for. But if you have an intimate relationship and you feel like that you'd really just like to help this person in some form, it's I think we have these opportunities all the time, so it's just taking the time to be aware of them. The first sponsor for this episode is Lady Boss. Lady Boss is a women's fitness and health company that really tries to provide as many resources as possible to help women live the healthiest lives possible. So if you want to check out some of their free resources, you can head on over to theformulapodcast.com's sponsored products page and click the link there to head to their website and see what types of different free guides and workout plans, stuff like that they have available for you. Now, our second sponsor for this episode is Liquid Web. If you've listened to any of our episodes about launching your own e-commerce company or an online business, they have these like pre-made solutions for you that you can just go on over and sign up for. Now, if you check the show notes, they provided Formula Podcast listeners with a little bit of a coupon code, so you can just check out the show notes. I believe it's Formula 33. You get 33% off all Liquid Web products. Well, folks, that's a wrap for this week's show. Hopefully you can take a little bit of what Árpád and I talked about and maybe apply that to the next time you have the opportunity to give back or give selflessly to somebody you're close to. Now, if you wouldn't mind taking 30, 60, or 90 seconds, pulling up whatever podcast app you are listening to the show on, and throwing us a quick review. Really helps people like you find the show, and it's encourages me and everyone over here to keep on going. So thanks for tuning in. Look forward to you stopping by next time.